My negligence cost my partner her life, and I'm about to lose everything. I, 35 male, have been married to Lisa, 28 female, for 3 years, together 7. A year ago, I fell deeply in love with Amy, 24 female, and had been planning to end my marriage for her. I know it's terrible and not what my wife deserves, but we were the real thing. 2 weeks ago, she had an allergic reaction when we were getting food after work, but she used her EpiPen and seemed mostly okay afterwards. She usually gets checked at the hospital after a reaction, but I asked if I could take her home and she could have her friend drive her because my wife was expecting me back. All I know is that she had a secondary reaction that evening and died. I didn't even find out about it until the following Monday through a work email. It has been eating me up ever since, and I will never forgive myself for not sacrificing an hour of my time to possibly save her. Yeah, so I'm going to pause right here. So despite me having an EpiPen at one point in my life, I did not know until I found this post that after you have an allergic reaction and use an EpiPen, you are still supposed to go to the hospital because there could be secondary reactions, and they also just have to make sure all your vitals are good and everything like that. I had no clue. So if you have an EpiPen and your doctor didn't tell you that, now you know. If you ever have to use an EpiPen on someone, you're supposed to take them to the hospital immediately. So we've all learned something together. I sent some childish messages to Amy when I didn't hear from her over the weekend because I thought she was angry I didn't take her to the hospital. I am thankful she never saw them and ashamed that I assumed the worst. Our relationship was great, and the highs far outweighed the lows, but I have always hated being ignored, and I lose my cool when it happens. It is not a regular occurrence, and I would have more than made it up to her. So, this is why we don't say things out of anger. Like, nobody's perfect, we're gonna make mistakes, but, no matter how mad you get at, your significant other, you shouldn't treat that, you should never call them names or take out your anger on them. This is why we should be mindful of how we speak to people. You genuinely don't know when the last moment will be the last, and people don't want to live with those types of regrets. But also, he's right in the sense that he sent childish messages. It's childish to throw a fit because somebody won't respond to you. Anyway, not to mention you also have a wife, so I don't know. Anyway, yesterday at work, HR and legal were in the CEO's office all day, and my manager ended up canceling our project meeting because he was with them all afternoon. I was on edge, but an affair isn't exactly a corporate crisis, and I thought something would have already happened if anyone knew. I am now 99% certain it was about me. A few hours ago, I received a message from Amy's phone which said, "This is Amy's brother Tom. I want you to know it was me." I tried to call, but it went straight to voicemail, and none of my messages have been delivered. I tried to call my manager more times than I should have, and he sent me a message saying, "Please don't contact me until Monday morning. I can't discuss anything with you right now." So it looks like my universe is going to collapse. I am going to be fired, and my wife will definitely find out why. All I can do is hope that Amy's brother only showed them the messages from that weekend, and they were bad enough. I have no family except my wife and daughter and nowhere to go. All of my friends are either people I've met through my wife or my colleagues. On Monday, everything I've spent over a decade working towards disappears. I can't stop it. I can't talk to anyone about it. So here I am. I know cheaters are the devil, so I'm not expecting sympathy, but this is making my chest hurt and I need to get it out there. That is, okay, so he's right. First of all, cheaters are the lowest of the low. I'm sorry. I've said this in so many aspects of my life and other videos and everything. If you plan on cheating on your spouse, your significant other, literally break up with them or divorce them. I have literally said that if you're going to cheat on me, literally call me from where you are. Have the respect and the decency not to do something behind my back. Yeah, it's going to hurt for you to tell me you don't love me anymore or whatever, but I would rather you treat me like a human being and tell me hey, I no longer have these feelings for you, so that I can start processing that and move on with my life rather than you cheating on me and making me feel even worse than I already do when I feel like I'm not loved. You know what I mean? So cheating is honestly, like, cheating destroys people in ways that you can't even imagine. So I have no sympathy for this man. I feel awful that this girl had to, unfortunately, she passed away. That's horrible. And I'm not saying she knew he was married or anything. That doesn't matter. What happened to her, though, is not, what happened to her isn't deserved by any means. Like, her brother getting involved. So now I'm wondering, like, what the text messages said, because OP would have had to send some messed up stuff for her brother to decide to reach out to the company and be like, hey, this is what happened with my sister. These are the things that are going on with them at work. So, yeah. There's an update. So, this was 1 week after his original post. I have been consistently harassed for an update since posting, so please take it. Gloat because you're such wonderful people in comparison, then stop following me around Reddit. I am suffering in the wake of my infidelity and unprofessional behavior, as I knew I would. I understand that this is an appropriate outcome, and I'm taking full accountability. Wow. Well, I'm glad you have self-awareness, but still doesn't make up for the fact that you were pretty much a POS. I was suspended from work on Monday, and I'll probably be fired sooner than I thought. I hoped I'd be able to save money as HR built their case, but it looks like Amy's brother basically performed the entire investigation for them. After an excruciating 3-hour run through of everything they had, I spoke to the founder, and he recommended the solicitor I am now using. The issue is that the company has to come down hard to protect themselves, because even though Amy's family doesn't have much of a chance of a claim, any suggestion of a cover-up could cause damage regardless. The founder still thinks my offer to pay them back will keep it out of court, and some more information has come to light, so it's not certain I won't be prosecuted, but I'm quite quietly hopeful. I can't afford to keep this solicitor if this goes much further, especially with a divorce on the horizon. This is one of those moments where you're like, you're getting everything you absolutely deserve for your behavior. Things are not good with my wife. I'm still committed to making this as easy as possible for her, but I had to draw a line when it came to my daughter. When I got home from being unceremoniously escorted out of my office, she already had a bag packed for me. She wouldn't let me wait at the house until my daughter was back. She wouldn't let me check I had everything I needed. She wouldn't let me take the car, and she didn't care that I had nowhere to go. I spent 2 nights in a hotel, then went back when she refused to let me see my little girl. She tried to stop me, but we own the house jointly, and it was my only option. My wife has family she could stay with, but she won't leave our daughter here, and she's absolutely not taking her, so we're at a stalemate right now. I'm keeping out of her way the best I can, which I appreciate is the least I can do. Again, I still don't feel sorry for you. This is hard when it's hard when you have children, because if they didn't have children, it's like, yeah, kick him to the street. Who cares how he ends up? But I truly believe that it is a child's decision on whether or not they stay in contact with a parent. It's not necessarily fair that mom is keeping her away from dad. I know that this guy really screwed up. He ruined your whole life that you had planned out together. I'm not saying you shouldn't be angry. I'm not saying you shouldn't kick him to the curb, but I think preventing him from seeing his kid, I've never thought something like that is fair. I think kids come first, and he did something very horrible, but it doesn't change who he is as a father. Now, if he's not a good father, then whatever, that's fine. Kick him out fully, but I just feel like, unfortunately, once you have kids with somebody, you have to care about their well-being to a certain extent, because you just want what's best for your kids at the end of the day. The Amy situation is quite difficult to talk about, and a lot hasn't sunk in yet. It turns out that she didn't love me as much as I loved her, if at all. Her brother sent me images of her talking to her friends about me, and it's hard to believe they came from the person I loved, but they are real. Sorry to those who were heavily invested in me being a predatory abuser, but she and her friends had a good laugh about her manipulating me for money and a promotion. The role came with a big pay rise, and it looks like her plan was to treat it as free cash, then go work with one of her friends when it fell through. She knew I'd come under scrutiny whenever she messed up and assumed I'd keep stepping in to save her. She was right. Obviously, I am completely humiliated. I was planning to give up everything to build a life with her, and she was treating me like a joke the whole time. My feelings are complicated, so please don't feel entitled to any expansion on this, but I no longer feel guilt over her death. Yikes. Yeah. I don't know if you should say that. Anyway, Reddit acted like I kept her hostage while she begged for help. What actually happened was that I asked if she could ask her friend to take her to the hospital because I had to go home. She said that she was fine because she needed to get some clothes back from her anyway, and I dropped her off as normal. Ultimately, she was an adult who had a better understanding of her medical needs than I did. I still don't know what happened between us saying goodbye and her death, but whatever it was, it had nothing to do with me. I'm sorry for her family's loss, but I bear no responsibility for her passing. I mean, if you didn't know about the EpiPen thing, then, I mean, you know, he didn't drop her off with the intent for her to die. Like, he wasn't like, okay, well, if I don't take you, you're probably gonna die. He clearly didn't know. So I don't think he's responsible for her death in any way, but just the whole no longer feeling any kind of guilt or whatever. Again, he didn't do anything. He didn't cause her death. Well, I just think when situations like this happen, there's a way to go about treating it, especially when it comes to someone passing. We don't need to speak ill about those who have passed, right? They don't have any rights to defend themselves at this point, so I just think the way he's acting and handling this is still pretty immature, and he hasn't shown me anything that he's a good person. So again, everything happening to him at this point is his own fault. After Amy's messages to her friends were passed around, a few people quietly reached out with words of support. I assumed everyone would write me off like Reddit did, as an abuser and predator. Now it's clear that Amy was using me. They see me as a fool who had then lost it all. It's beyond humiliating, but I have learned I'd rather be pitied than despised, and it improves my legal position with work. They're small mercies, but I'll take what I can get. I remain filled with regret, and I will have learned many lessons by the time I get through this. I may have been deceived, but I am a grown man who made my choices, and I take full responsibility for them. Step number 1 is owning up to everything that you did. All right, there's another update, but this time it's from a coworker, okay? So apparently a coworker of his saw this post and knew exactly who he was and decided to share their side of things. So here we go. I am a coworker of someone whose Reddit story about work went viral. I'm feeling chatty, so ask me anything, I guess. I was inspired by this post where someone asked if they'd ever seen a Reddit post about themselves. I'm in the comments because I worked at the same company as this guy, and in the same department as his affair partner, who died under very sad circumstances. You can read all about it from his perspective conveniently. I only joined Reddit quite recently, but I was aware of the post a few weeks after it was made because it was passed around the office and gave us all a ton of information, which made a lot of things suddenly make sense. We were all extremely invested at the time, and weirdly, the story you all saw set off a series of events which basically led to an entire division of the company quitting. I've seen it repeated on a few of those TikTok Reddit read-through accounts, and a few people in the comments of the post I saw earlier today seemed interested. So, because the company didn't think to get me to sign any additional confidentiality agreements when I left, an equally dramatic but also closely related story, I figured I'd spend a Friday night drinking wine and spilling tea if anyone wants some. One thing I do need to mention is that the original OP has a brain injury he did not disclose in his post. I can't speculate too much on that, and I'm not saying it makes his actions forgivable, but it would be crazy to pretend it's not a factor. He lives independently, but from what I'm aware, his brother helps him a lot. So, traumatic brain injury, TBI. We don't know what he has because he hasn't said anything here. He didn't say anything about his condition, but that kind of throws this whole thing for a loop because throughout my life, just reading through true crime and all of these things, when somebody has a really traumatic brain injury or a TBI, it can cause their whole personality to shift and change. So if he truly had one, I wonder if the reason why he said the affair was for a year, only a year. So I'm almost wondering if that's a part of it. Again, I'm not saying there are excuses. We know right from wrong, but I'm just now I'm kind of like, okay, what more can we know here? So, a commenter on the coworker's post. Does anyone know what happened to this POS at the end? Are the wife and daughter doing okay? Is Tom still a bad? Editor's note, Tom is Amy's brother. So, coworker, dropping by months later to answer your question, I used to work with OP and people still talk about his post in real life. Wife and daughter are fine. She kept the house and is in another relationship. Tom cost their family her death benefits, then turned up at one of OP's colleagues' houses, trashed her car, and got arrested. The original post didn't even cover half of the craziness. Okay. Another commenter. It's so interesting how the fact that he had a brain injury changes his story and makes it make a different sort of sense. Like how, on the other hand, you and your coworkers reading the Reddit post did the same, but in a different way. Coworker. Oh, for sure. We were absolutely horrified by some of the things people were saying to him when it started getting passed around, and we were really worried about how he'd take it. There was a talk of creating an account to explain, but because it was looking like it might end up in court, no one wanted to risk it. Can't blame them really, but it's definitely mad how much that fact changes things. Commenter. Did it end up going to court? Coworker. No. They all used to abuse their expenses, and they knew he could bury everyone if it ever saw the inside of a courtroom. He claimed to be running out of money in his last post, but it was common knowledge he got a huge payout after his accident. A sign wasn't properly mounted on a shop front, and it fell on him when he was walking past. So he could have easily afforded to take it all the way. I imagine the first question would have been why they gave someone with brain damage a company card with no restrictions and no written policy on what they could and couldn't use it for. This is just getting a little crazier. Commenter. I read quite a bit of that post and checked out all your comments. Thanks for adding more details. My question. Had your coworker not gotten the brain injury, do you still think he would have done what he did? Coworker. I wasn't particularly close to him, but the common take is that he wouldn't have given his affair partner the time of day before his injury. Yeah, she was really unpleasant, but by all accounts, he was a really devoted husband and father. He definitely wasn't a saint, but he calmed down a lot when his daughter was born and he talked about her all the time. Crazy. Okay. Commenter. The other candidate for the promotion that got shafted in favor of his affair partner, how did she take the news that said partner was only promoted and held her position due to a quid pro quo? Did she ever get that promotion or did she quit the company as well? Coworker. It was a man, and if I get a say, he'll never work again. One part of Tim's original story that is outright untrue is that neither his affair partner or the other candidates were fully qualified for the role. The other guy was more qualified, and that's about the only good thing I can say about him. I was there when he got his revenge, and I haven't spoken to him since, along with pretty much everyone present. On paper, I totally agree that OP deserved to get the stuff kicked out of him, but when it actually happened, it was like watching a child be abused. He was scared and confused and didn't defend himself in any way. I nearly cried at the thought of this while writing the comment. It was truly disgusting. The other guy was wronged in a really significant way, but there's absolutely no excuse for what he did. Okay, so commenter, my apologies if I missed this in the original post, but the candidate who was overlooked ended up beating up the OP male coworker who had the affair. Yeah, coworker. Yeah, Tim didn't mention it in his post, but the other candidate beat him halfway to hell when it all came out. This all happened in the bar next to the office after he'd been fired. I don't know why he turned up because he didn't really get a chance to say much before the other guy started absolutely thrashing him. It was awful. People were in tears watching it happen. Okay, so timeline. He has a brain injury. It changes him. He starts to have an affair with a woman he would have never gave a second look to. Because he's having an affair and thinks he's in love with this woman, it helps her get a promotion. And the person who got passed up for the promotion beat original poster because of all this. I mean, the tea, the drama, all of it, just just insane at this point. What's the common consensus on why he ended up starting the affair with her after his brain injury? Also, did you recognize the reasoning behind his original post as distinctly him? And if so, is his reasoning something that he's always had, or did it come about post-injury? Coworker. To be honest, he seems sharper in the post than he does in real life, but we were all very aware of his issues. He had some problems with memory, his mood went up and down a lot, and he would behave quite childishly sometimes. I can't say that word. So we maybe treated him with kid gloves more than was necessary. He was definitely doing good work once they took him away from clients, though. I used to regularly get requests from him, and they were always solid. In terms of the affair, I think it's as simple as her showing interest. He was a bit pervy after the accident, not even remotely the case before. He never said anything over the line, but he'd stare a bit, and his expressions were sometimes like if a 12-year-old boy walked in on you changing. Some of the messages that came out after the fact painted the picture. She would say the same things to him every few days, and when she wanted something, she asked like it was a brand new request until he said yes. Commenter. Do you know what text he sent the affair partner over the weekend that he was worried about? Coworker. I never saw them, but they sounded more pathetic than aggressive from what I heard, and very much in line with his usual reaction to being ignored. He wasn't really aware of the boundaries between asking and pestering. I logged in on a Monday morning a few times to something like, question, hello? Hello? Why aren't you answering? I know you've seen this. Why are you ignoring me? Are you mad with me? I should be mad with you. This could make or break the company. You're not committed to the company? I always knew you were useless. Everyone thinks it. Are you there? Why aren't you answering me? We're going to lose this client if you don't get back to me today. Hello? Hello? Are you okay? You get the idea. Tons of messages, but as soon as I'd answer the question, he'd thank me and be totally professional with his follow-up. The best way I can describe it is that he was fine right up to the point where he needed to regulate himself in any way. He couldn't have sat in on a client meeting because we all knew the score. We worked to keep him leveled out. I can't see him saying anything particularly horrible to her. I can almost guarantee you I've looked her in the eye and said worse. Commenter. That's what blows my mind about the TBI because of how well written everything is. Do you think he used AI to assist him? It's just so interesting that he could hold down a corporate job that isn't entry level, yet he can't independently handle his own finances. What kind of accident did he have that caused the injury? Coworker. I don't think he'll ever work again. He kept his job because he was adored and respected, and he knew the tech inside and out even after the accident. But there's no way he could properly navigate a corporate environment from scratch. The accident would have been funny if it didn't have such a horrible outcome. He was walking down the street and the sign above a dry cleaner fell on him. In the early days, they thought he was going to need full-time care permanently, but his wife dropped everything and basically devoted her life to his rehabilitation. He is very lucky to have had her. He's impulsive now and he doesn't really know how to regulate his emotions, but he can hold a conversation and will occasionally say something wildly funny or insightful. AI could have helped, or maybe even his brother, but the thing that shocked me the most was that he seemed to stay on an even keel throughout the posts and comments. He is quite up and down in real life, even via text. Oh man, now I just feel bad. Like, the wife helped him through his recovery, and then he's had an affair. And like I said, traumatic brain injury can change your personality, but you still know right from wrong. So this is just a really unfortunate situation. Commenter. What was Amy like? What was her brother like? I saw a comment somewhere that the brother got arrested for something as a result of conversations between Amy and others that he disclosed. What happened? Coworker. I'm going to speak ill of the dead. Oops, I already said not to do that. She was horrible. Lazy, judgmental, mean, and arrogant. When she was promoted into project management, she didn't bother learning the core tech, so her decisions were consistently poor, which forced us to go around her all the time to get reasonable outcomes. She once told me I'd never get a husband, then burst into tears and complained to HR when I asked where the queue of men wanting to put a ring on her finger was. She would pick at the weaker members of the team, highly technical people who were very sweet but lacked social skills, and was a general bully. I was pretty nasty to her too, so my hands aren't exactly clean, but I had great relationships with everyone else, so I do think she was the problem. The brother sent lots of messages in, and the company ended up getting the phone and passcode from him. I'm very light on details on this one, but whatever was on there was damning enough for them to cancel her death in service benefits, which were going to her mom. The brother sent some threatening messages and managed to find out where the HR head lived. I don't know exactly what he did to her car, but it was a write-off and he was arrested for it. We got a big email saying legal action was pending and that any communication from him needed to be forwarded straight to a dedicated email address. I left when all this was pending, so never heard a follow-up, but I doubt it went very far given how sticky this whole situation was. This just keeps going. So this is the coworker making a comment on the original poster's personality. His personality definitely changed significantly. He can hold a conversation, and his knowledge level remained extremely high, but he was quite immature and he couldn't deal with anything if he wasn't expecting it. He could really provide insightful feedback about something we were working on, then 2 minutes later lose his temper or shut down completely because he'd spill a drink. He had to take a step back from dealing with clients because he couldn't be trusted. He'd just say yes to whatever they asked, and it led to a few nasty surprises. He didn't take any new clients after the injury, so they were generally very understanding because they saw the same changes we did. It's tough to explain. If you met him on a good day, you could spend a few hours with him and not realize, but any more than that, and you'd almost certainly go through like, oh, that was a bit odd, or, okay, there's definitely something wrong here. To my knowledge, nobody tried to figure out how aware he was of the brain injury. The key phrase drummed into us when he started coming back to the office a bit was, meet him where he is. And he was a really well-respected member of the team, so we were all really sympathetic to the situation. I did hear him make a few comments about his brain being broken, but they were fairly lighthearted and mainly centered around him forgetting small things. Commenter: regarding the traumatic brain injury, when exactly did that happen? Was it before or after the affair? Was it before or after he blew off the sister-in-law's stillborn? Hold on. Was it before or after he blew off the sister-in-law's stillborn child service so he could be with the affair partner? I missed something here. His accident was in 2022, so long before any of this stuff. And everyone who knows him is of the opinion that the TBI was the driving factor for the affair and everything that came afterwards. Jeez. Missing the memorial service for the baby was something we only knew because of the post, and even knowing his challenges, it's impossible to be anything other than disgusted by it. Okay, so apparently at some point he missed his sister-in-law's child service. Jeez Louise. This is coworker providing more details on why Amy wasn't taken to the hospital. I mentioned in another comment that this was one of the big unanswered questions everyone had about the situation after we saw the post. We're in the UK, so an ambulance doesn't have strings attached. That would have been the logical choice as soon as she had a reaction. I saw a comment today that really bothered me though. I didn't know that confusion is one of the after effects of anaphylaxis. When we were told what to do if she had a reaction, anything beyond administering her EpiPen came down to calling 999 and following their instructions. I can't stop thinking about the possibility that she was completely and blatantly out of it when she agreed to go home, and that he just didn't pick up on it. Because of his TBI. It's clear that I didn't like her, but that's a horrendously sad way to go out. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I definitely remember that now. Like, once the EpiPen is used, you're very, like, aloof and kind of don't know what's going on. So, yeah, maybe when he dropped her off, she just wasn't processing things fast enough. I don't know. Did the coworker and original poster know each other before the accident? Coworker: I joined the company in 2018, so I spent more time with him before his accident than after. All strictly at work and work events, though. We weren't friends. But he was a totally different person. Bits of his original personality did come through as time went on, but not anywhere near the point where you could forget you were dealing with a fundamentally different personality. Wow. So, this is just... the amount of whiplash I have gotten from this post is just insane. There was a whole lot of stuff here. This is honestly just a really sad and awful situation. All of it. Him, he's a good husband and father living a normal life, and then gets a traumatic brain injury that changes who he is. So then he cheats on his wife after she, helped him through all of his recovery. And the woman he cheated on her with was just using him for money and promotions. And at one point he gets his butt beat because he got her a promotion. And then he decides he's going to leave his wife because of this woman. But before that happens, she dies of an allergic reaction. And so her brother, angry, goes to the company with all of this information. And for whatever reason, they decide not to honor her life insurance policy for her family, which then makes him do something crazy and go to jail. Wow. That was a lot. I don't even know what to say from half of this. This was a whirlwind of things that happened, and I'm glad the coworker came through with more understanding, because the original post is this man cheated on his wife and he's suffering the consequences for it, and then you come to find out all about all this other stuff. It's just sad. This whole situation is just awful, and I hate that this happened for these people. I don't know how to feel at this point. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you feel bad for the original poster? I don't know. The empathy part of me is well, maybe the brain injury really messed him up. I have never personally known anybody with a brain injury that I'm aware of by any means. So I can't speak to how differently it can change a person. So yeah, I just feel awful that all of this happened. And, I don't know. This was a post from June 1st, 2024. I hope things have, worked out how they were supposed to at this point. So yeah, I want to know your thoughts. Tell me what you think, because this was crazy. It was just crazy.